Director of National Intelligence. Oh, where's Tulsi? She's like hotter than everybody. She's the hottest one in the room right now because she found out with certainty. I think we knew it before, in all fairness, Tulsi. But now you have certainty. She has all the documents. She has everything that you need. And she found out that Barack Hussein Obama led a group of people and they cheated in the elections, and they cheated without question. It's not even a would you say there's even a little question there, Tulsi? She says no. And you found things that nobody thought we'd ever find. And very happy and very honored to have you with us. She's right now, by far, Speaker, she's hotter than you right now, Speaker. She's the hottest person in the room right now, Speaker. So, Tulsi, great job. And I know you have a lot more coming. She told me you've seen nothing yet. So I heard those rumors about you, but now I know they're true. So we're very proud of you, Tulsi. They cheated so badly, and ultimately it led to a loss in 2020, and it shouldn't have been a loss. It was a big victory. We won by a lot. We had to do it again. But if I thought we lost, I would never have run again. And this is a far more consequential election than it would have been if we did. That's the only thing I can...
Cause you're a rolling stone. We laid his head and lost his horn. When he died, no one goes alone. Cause you're a rolling stone. We laid his head and lost his horn. When he died, goes alone. Those are rolling stone. We made it stand strong.
Papa was a rolling stone, but don't call him a Trojan horse. Don't you dare. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Deal Media's #1 late-night shadow banned show, World at War. I'm your late-night host here, Dean Ryan, who is coming at you, well, like a Trojan minus the horse. Tonight is a very interesting, captivating, alluring, enticing show here tonight, as we're going to be tackling the upcoming Armageddon of finances, the Trojan horse, as some may have called it. Tonight's episode is just that, the digital Trojan horse, and boy, isn't it ever. Well, let me tell you more about it, as now is, we're going to be getting into some of the new currencies that are going to be affecting you out there. They're going to be affecting your bank. These are going to be some of the hurdles and challenges that each and every individual who's in the banking system is going to be met with very, very soon. But it's what currency and whose currency is it? And it's very important for you to know here tonight. We're going to be talking about that. And it's also going to be featuring a very special report from our very own Mike Adams, who is hot off the trail and too hot to trot, too cold to hold, but not for this audience. You don't want to miss that. Plus, the season is treason, because treason is the season. And we're going to be getting into a continuation of last night's show of the road to Obama. The road less traveled, yes, as the calls, the echo chambers for treason, for arrest. Well, they haven't plateaued 5 years ago. They're now ramping up again, as we're in the era of the revival. Whatever is old is new again. We're going to be talking about that, as Tulsi Gabbard has now reappeared. She has spawned from the White House floors. where she's been hiding out, and she has a message for all of us to hear, who Donald Trump seems to be jumping on that without a care in the world. We're going to be talking about that. Also, in addition to that, we're going to be discussing the Epstein files, the cover up, and what is one comedian who is close to the source, a JD Vance, what does he have to say about it, as he heard some things that are not really detailed to the narrative we're supposed to be consuming? We'll be getting into that, plus some major international news, some real deal showbiz, another major death. And we'll be talking about it. And I thought they happened in threes. Was there a third death I'm missing? We'll have to poll the audience with that one. And some major news coming out of the Real Deal Sports section, something we haven't done in quite some time. And some major health news that is the Real Deal Health just feature of the evening, plus some of your live chats, comments, conjectures, and concerns. Yes, we are. Okay. Try to say that one time. We are broadcasting live right now on 3 major platforms. 3 of them I'm very hard to find, and I said to myself I have to start doing these, and I wrote it down here. If you are watching these and you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, even Rumble now, feel free to like, share amongst your peers or other, and to get us past the shadow ban and censorship. And I got to tell, I'm guilty for not saying that like everyone else, because like you out there, I'm very deeply immersed in what we're doing here. So I have to put that cap on and remind myself and others to help us get past the censorship. I mean, I don't need to get into it, but yeah, the people who are prospering right now, you got to really question. And why are we held back in high school still? I don't know. So that is what I want to say. So yes, we're on the Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook, Dean Ryan TV over there on YouTube, at the Graveyard, and Rumble. What do you know? But let's just get down and dirty with it, as we have so much to get to. And even Australia's in the news tonight, and I'm so giddy about it, because we get to expose some of the dirty deeds done dirt cheap down under. Yes, we do. So let's get started with some real deal headlines from around the world and in your neck of the dirty woods. Well, there's a destination a little up the road from the habitations of the towns we know, and this time the World Health Organization is not part of it. Did you know? Well, maybe if you are in Australia or some of the other Commonwealth countries, you might have heard that the World Health Organization is coming to collect with all the treaties, signatories, that they own you, your sovereignty, your family, your front door, everything. They have the keys to it, they say. But let's get into it, shall we? Well, the World Health Organization, or as we know it here, is the World Death Organization, the people's choice. Well, now the United States has rejected the WHO amendments to protect our liberty here. Did you hear about this? This is groundbreaking, and I'm so happy to hear it. I do have a lot of good news here tonight. Well, let me tell you what's at stake now. Well, the United States has now officially rejected with glee the WHO, the World Death Organization, the international health regulations amendments to preserve the sovereignty right here in the United States. Well, officials cite risk of global surveillance. They say we'd rather do it on our own, but in this case, we don't need global censorship. Unchecked WHO power. That's true. Well, the amendments include expanded WHO authority, compliance committees, and digital health tracking. Just like the during the COVID era, all the track and trace, if you recall, that was the beta test for the WHO. Now, RFK and little Marco Rubio oppose mandates seen as undermining American liberties and transparency. Now, December 1st deadline looms for other nations' rejection amid growing global sovereignty concerns. Well, just days ago, just to put a little detailed precision into it, just on July 18th alone, the United States government formally rejected the WHO amendments to the international health regulations, which a lot of people probably didn't even know we were just venturing and waltzing into, marking a bold stance to safeguard national sovereignty, individual liberties amid global calls of expanded pandemic governance. They want a global government, just a global government all over the place. Well, Secretary of Health, Human Resources and Services over there, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the sweet secretary, Marco Rubio, announced the decision, arguing that the IHR changed the risk of creating a technocratic control system. Gee, you think? Under the guise of pandemic preparedness with provisions for surveillance. Now, the censorship and centralized authority over health policy was going to be in their hands as they were looking down on the world over creation. We were just going to be little peanuts in their puppet game. Well, this rejection aligns with the Trump administration's 2020 withdrawal from the WHO, but diverges from Biden's administration's push for similar IHR reforms. Yes, and just to add, Kennedy also condemned the rules as a, quote, Trojan horse for global governance. So sticking with that theme, I mean, we would have had surveillance expansion, not just in this country, but from a global apparatus, censorship of dissent, labeling opposing views as misinformation to suppress medical debate. You think I speak in code now? Wait till that could have happened. The loss of sovereignty, binding treaties requiring compliance with WHO mandates on the policy. That, yeah, we're talking about the reintroduction of the anal swabs, grab your ankles and cough and make a wish kind of ordeal. But wait, that's not all. Kennedy was not done yet. Yes, Bobby has been on a tear. In fact, if you didn't hear about it, there's now been a huge change in the miracle jab schedule. Check this out.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary, and I'm here today with NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary. I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today. It's common sense and it's good science.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
We're now one step closer to realizing President Trump's promise to make America healthy again.
Thank you. Thank you, Kung Fu stars there. So this is good news. This is good news. A lot of people were sweating bullets, sweating pins and needles there as the miracle jabs were making a comeback. Now, you might be asking yourself, what about the adults? Why are they still on this schedule? Well, clearly, the people at the HHS clearly think that a bit more people need to die to meet the Deagle quota. And I'm not just saying that. Well, this next story here, this is quite interesting here. Many of you may not know, but we have been dragged or are getting dragged into a war with Syria. And somebody recently died now, as now an American has been killed in Syria. Did you know this? This is quite just ravishing of just fraudulence everywhere now. I can now tell you. Syria jihadists reportedly executed a 35-year-old Syrian American, a member of the religious minority, the Druze community, Druze. Last week, a government-backed forces viciously attacked members of the Druze community in the country. The State Department over there confirmed Tuesday that the American, who had been identified as Hassam Sayara from Oklahoma, go figure, was killed in Syria. A State Department spokesperson said that time and time again that the little Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, has emphasized the importance of prioritizing the safety and security of U.S. citizens and pretty much anyone else that Israel deems to be secure and protected. Well, we can confirm that the death of the U.S. citizen in the Swahili region of the Syria regions, well, it occurred last week. He also went on stating, we offer condolences to the family and their loss, providing consular assistance to them as we do our satanic seance starting tomorrow. Well, Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma wrote that Hassam was an Oklahoman and a member of the Druze community, which many people who just did not know existed, as there's probably only a handful of them. It is he was tragically executed alongside a member of his family in Syria. Now, this is also, just so you know, this is the guys, this is the smoking gun for Israel, which many people don't know, to start bombing Damascus, the capital of Syria. violating Geneva Conventions, violating all kinds of treaties. Well, if you don't know, well, here's some of the footage of it. This is unbelievable as we're all just bogged down looking at Gaza and Iran. Israel said, well, now's our chance.
يا شباب قصف جديد قصف جديد يا شباب قصف جديد ما بنهيئة الأركان خالص قصف جديد يا شباب قصف خذونا بسرعة 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 قصف ثاني دمروه نعم قصف.
Amazing what the IDF does behind our back and also in front of it as well. Now, that leads us to something that's a bit more derelict that we need to know about. And that brings us to now something that Bobby has been promoting. We don't understand it, but I think we do kind of. It's called the wearables. Have you heard about this? There's a follow-up to this. Well, the wearables trap, how the government plans to monitor, score, and control you. Well, that's very saucy, isn't it? And quite dirty. Well, in this case, the bodily autonomy, the right to privacy and integrity over our own bodies is now rapidly vanishing. That's right. The debate now extends beyond the forced miracle jabs, invasive searches to include the biometric surveillance in what is going to be a wearable track. Now, they got us used to that as the slaves that we could be sometimes, with people who count their steps, people who are very conscious about their health, their weight, etc. Well, this is probably not the thing you want for yourself. Now, under the guise of public health and personal empowerment, the initiative is nothing less than a normalization of the 24/7 bodily surveillance, meaning the nanny states doesn't just want to know where you're at all times. They also want to be inside your pants as well, in this case, ushering a world where every step, every heartbeat, biological fluctuation is monitored not only by private companies, but yeah, you guessed it, people like Marco Rubio. Now, in this emerging surveillance industrial complex, the health data becomes the currency of that particular field. Now, tech firms profit from hardware, app subscriptions, insurers profit from risk scoring, government agencies profit from increased compliance and behavioral insight. This convergence of health technology, surveillance in very obscure and obtuse perversions, it's just a next step in a long familiar pattern of control. Even though there might be some wins with the miracle jabs coming off the schedule and other kind of wins, we must reject tyranny at all forms, at all times, even on the weekends too. Just a little note for you on that one. Well, that brings us to our main story here tonight. Well, in a new, emerging, brave new world, as the Huxleys once called it, not the Huxtables, but in this case, the Trojan horse, the digital Trojan horse, is something we need to know about. That's absolutely correct. All the wearables aside, well, now we know something that's now spurring, as the Genius Act was just passed days ago. The new spark that is now fueling the CBDC surveillance grid as conservatives warn of digital slavery. Well, now you tell us. Well, there's something out there called stable coins. It's a gateway for the CBDC, which is the Federal Reserve, to remain relevant in a Ponzi scheme that has no gold, no genius behind it, as it's now part of the new bills that are coming out. The Genius Act that was passed in the House and the Senate now allows private banks to issue government-regulated stable coins, a crypto coin of sorts. But critics warn its backdoor to the central bank digital currency alleyways are now enabling surveillance and financial control over citizens. Surveillance and censorship risk. The bill imposes strict rules enabling real-time transaction monitoring, allowing banks to freeze funds based on political or dissent related to spending. And don't we know about it? A great example is the Canadian 2022 crackdown of the truckers. Though framed as a private sector innovation, the Fed retains control of raising fears of transition to the CBDC. So this goes into the coping mechanisms out there of the anonymous, of the unknowns. But wait, there's more. The Trojan horse, as they're now calling it, the stable coins are secretly paving the way for more control of the Federal Reserve, who's becoming more and more irrelevant by the day and if not the hour. Well, this financial coup d'etat is accelerating under the Trump administration, and Palantir is part of it as well. It's not just another power grab. People like Catherine Austin Fitz has now told us it's a carefully engineered trap. While the public is now being manipulated by congressional charades and media distractions, stable coins, as they're now calling them, marked as vehicles as decentralized finance, are quietly evolving involving into a backdoor centralized bank system of a trap. This isn't fringe conspiracy at all. There's no conspiracy theory, yet conspiracy reality. That's absolutely correct. And someone who knows a thing or two about that is our very own Mike Adams, who's now put a report together for this very effective audience. Mike, tell us what's going on.
Mike Adams here with a quick special report for Real Deal Media. Watch out for the launch of bank-issued stablecoins. You're going to see, for example, the JP Morgan stablecoin. Now, this is just a proxy for U.S. Treasuries, because all of these stablecoins being regulated now under the Genius Act are going to be forced to buy U.S. Treasuries. In other words, the Treasury has run out of buyers. China's dumping Treasuries. Japan can't buy anymore. They're broke themselves. Europe isn't buying any. They've run out of buyers, and the dollar is approaching rapid collapse unless they can find new suckers to buy Treasury debt. So the stablecoin project is designed to trick Americans into handing over their money to buy Treasuries through the proxy of a stablecoin. So you buy the stablecoin, which is pegged to the dollar, which is a collapsing currency that's already lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971. That's not stable, is it? It's an unstable coin. But you buy the stable coins, and then the stablecoin organization like JP Morgan turns around and buys Treasury debt. But this is going to fail. This is going to fail for a couple of reasons. Number one, the total global value of all cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and everything together, is only around $3 trillion, give or take. And you're not going to be able to convince a bunch of people to buy stablecoins that don't go up. Think about it. If you buy a JP Morgan stablecoin pegged to the dollar, it's only going to lose value. So what moron is going to sit on Morgan coins and scream FOMO, FOMO, FOMO when it can't go up? Because it's only pegged to the dollar. It will only lose value. Nobody's going to sit on it. Certainly not $3 trillion worth of people. Not even $1 trillion. So with the national debt being $37 trillion right now, Trump would be lucky if he can pay off $1 trillion. And the current debt to GDP ratio being 120%, that's third world collapse territory right there. That's one reason why nobody wants to buy U.S. Treasuries. But selling a bunch of stable coins, that's not going to solve this problem. And only idiots will buy and hold stable coins because they're going nowhere but down.
Well, I guess that leaves us no choice. We're just going to have to buy penny stocks after all. I mean, just what a revelation. Thank you very much, Mike Adams, which now brings us to some real deal politics just the way you need it. Well, there's a lot of talk about treason, but there's a lot of talk about Epstein, which might really just kind of explain why there's a lot of talk about treason. Well, this just happened. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about a lot of things, but particularly now as the House Oversight Committee is subpoenaing Ghislaine Maxwell for testimony. This is rather interesting and very timely and very big. And let me tell you about it now. As President Trump's deputy AG is now to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, sparking fresh suspicions and driving Democrats to document her latest testimony on the Epstein files. Yeah, this is a huge, huge story, but they're trying to cover it up. Why, you might ask, we're not sure. Well, the powerful GOP House that is now being led by many people like Father of the Year, the committee will now seek to subpoena convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell for the testimony about Jeffrey Epstein in the case as expeditiously as possible, unquote. A spokesperson who's familiar with the source confirmed just today. Now, Representative Tim Burkett over there in Tennessee had requested Chairman James Comer summon the imprisoned British socialite for testimony. Comer instead asked Burkett to introduce a formal motion, which the panel approved by voice vote only. They didn't want anything on record. No way, not this time. Here's a quote from the representative. Since Ms. Maxwell is in federal prison, the committee will work with the Department of Justice and Bureau of Prisons to identify a date when committee can depose her. This is huge. Now, despite demands from lawmakers of both parties, House GOP leadership has so far stymied efforts to compel the release of the additional information about the convicted pedophile philanthropist to some who was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell just 6 years ago, if you can believe it. Very stunning, very stunning. Now, as this is happening, well, what about a vote to just release it? Who's blocking the vote? We don't know, but now I think we do. Well, that's right. U.S. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has now blocked the vote to release full transparency that we were promised. I was promised. I can't imagine why the father of the year would do such things. But let me tell you more about it now. Well, that's right. United States House Speaker over there, Mike Johnson, has now shut down the chamber to block the Epstein vote. The House of Representatives Speaker announced earlier today the adjournment of the chamber, stalling efforts to force the release of documents related to the disgraced financier Jeff Epstein. Now, the move delays a politically fraught vote on the matter until September amid the growing bipartisan pressure for transparency. It followed a key committee vote to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime associate and acquaintance. Well, calls to declassify the Epstein-related files have intensified recently, including from supporters of Trump and many people who were on the fence. Well, it's really noteworthy that Maxwell's legal team told the BBC just today that they were in discussions with the government and she would, quote, always testify truthfully. Well, thank God. We thought she was going to be fibbing and just telling a bunch of just frivolous lies. I guess not. I feel much more secure. Well, just earlier, too, just before this, the facing mounting pressure of both Democrats and some Republicans to force a vote to release the Epstein related files within the 30 days. Well, Mike Johnson declared a recess a day earlier than planned. So we're going to have to wait till September. I'm telling you, this is not going to go away. This is not going to go away. Now, getting back to politics, what else is not going to go away is the calls for treason that have been here well before 2020. And people like Tulsi Gabbard are coming out of the woodworks now to tell us what it's all about in her little scavenger hunt and what she found, which is kind of what we all had in our files as well. Check this out.
We will be releasing further documents tomorrow that will refute that statement. And I would go back and point to, and we will be pulling a whole host of statements that were made by the Obama administration, by Hillary Clinton, by senior Democrat officials, by their friends in the media that state over and over again after this January 2017 manufactured intelligence document was created that repeat the narrative. And I'm looking at my notes here. New York Times says Russian hackers acted to aid Trump in the election. Obama's CIA Director John Brennan says there is strong consensus among us to support the CIA claim Russian hackers aided Donald Trump's election. Hillary Clinton said, I would be president if not for the Russian hackers supporting Donald Trump. So there is a vast body of evidence and intelligence that debunks and refutes this statement you've just read and others coming from some of the Democrat leaders in Congress today.
Very stunning, as you saw Tulsi now tell us what we already knew. A lot of people said, well, what does Donald Trump feel about this? Because if you think about it, Trump really needs a big distraction. His polls or his approval ratings are going down at a rough 38%. Well, of course, he's going to capitalize on this. Don't be fooled by it. Well, this is what he had to say following that discovery by Tulsi Gabbard.
If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they look. He's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, She's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
And $3 bills are really crooked, and he would know. But let me tell you more about this. Well, they have the documents. They have the documents of treason. They're not hard to find. They're not that hard to locate. In fact, we were even told we have the documents about Epstein. Who recalls these so-called influencers who I don't even know? Well, if you recall, now it's coming out that 16 prominent MAGA influencers are now reportedly being flown to Israel for a high-level propaganda boot camp. That's right, aimed at reshaping how young Americans view the Jewish state. Well, the official list of attendees remain under wraps, but insiders say the training will equip them with tailored talking points, psychological tactics to neutralize and, if not neuter, the public scrutiny over topics like Israel's alleged intelligence ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the infamous dancing Israelis from 9/11, suspicions of Israeli links to JFK assassination, the deadly attack on the USS Liberty, and also convincing their followers that today's Israel is the same one from the biblical prophecy. The mission statement is to recode history, control perception, and rally the next generation behind the unshakable pro-Israeli stance. Yeah, people like Tim Pool who are on the payroll. It's very sad. People like Laura Loomer, the dog food eater, even her too. It is quite rather disgusting. Well, people are coming out of the woodworks, as you can imagine, with that. There's now a gentleman who is a comedian of sorts. I'm not familiar with him. He goes by Tim Dillon, who's now even talking about a private convo he had with the mysterious J.D. Vance. Yeah, he was just on Alex's show earlier. This is what he had to say about it.
I just want to add, when Bondi said we have 10,000 hours of video, she said we have 10,000 hours of video. I had dinner last week with the vice president. He told me that that was commercial pornography. They do not have videos of any powerful person in a compromising position. That's the party line that they're going with. If that's the case, why would Pam Bondi call it evidence? Why would she say it's evidence? She's not an idiot. She's the attorney general. Why would she say she has files on her desk if none of these implicated anybody? It just feels like they're covering something for sure.
What do you think they're covering out there? Or is he just imaginating things and just not going along to get along? That's a great question. A great question to really ask yourself here. So yeah, the MAGA influencers, I'm telling you, you can spot them out now, just like blackheads on a very dirty face. You just know exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, we're going to just move along here, but we're going to take this quick break because in the second half here tonight, we're going to revisit the Epstein files, and we're also going to revisit the treason is the season, and we're going to see what you say out there in the live chats. So when we get back, we're going to get to some international affairs, but also your comments, questions, conjecture, concerns, because this is what breaks the will of the American people to get involved in the politicos of of what we're now enduring. But should it, will it, and what are we going to do about it? So we're going to take this quick break. When we get back, we're going to get into some Real Deal International, plus your comments, questions, concerns, and what I think is going to happen, because no matter how you cut it, the financial reset is literally around the corner. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right here at World at War. Operation Midnight Hammer is underway. Well, after the U.S. bombing run and days of attacks, reported by the Defense Intelligence Agency estimated that the program had been delayed, but by less than 6 months. That's the uranium, that's the nuclear making. Now, the report also said that much of Iran's stockpile enriched uranium was moved before the strikes. And they're confirming now some Israeli officials who are highly, highly pissed off said that they also believe that the Iranian government had maintained small covert enrichment facilities. What we witnessed is now we can describe as Operation Hammer, but I don't know about you out there. I'm old enough to remember the original Operation Hammer, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, this is the original Operation Midnight Hammer. Yes. So, it just goes to show everything old is new again. And ask Paul Pelosi, and he'll tell you.
You are watching World at War with Dean Ryan, weeknights 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Real Deal Media.
Welcome back to World at War right here at Real Deal Media. I'm still Dean Ryan, your cruise director, who is cruising with you to midnight and beyond. And, well, mainly because I love when we're cruising together. Done is brought to you by the Real Deal Media Night Owls. The members, if you're not a member, will become a member, become a visionary debonair, play it from the Himalayas, be iconic, not ironic. And all you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv as we try to render these situations and mend them to all the calculated censorship, shadow banning that are coming our way. Yes, you never know from these people. They come in every direction, but we need your participation, your prayers, love, support. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv. And also, thank you to those who have donated to help keep these broadcasts going. Go to givesendgo.com/realdealgo. You know it. And you know what? Summer's not over, not by a long shot. That's why our summer sale that is still beginning. It's just wonderful. We're putting more products in there this week. Make sure to use promo code SUMMER25 for a whopping huge discount. So big I can't even tell you, because that's how it is. Okay, thank you very much there. Let's get back to business here. All right, we're going to be getting into some Real Deal Internationals because there's a lot happening around the world as we are bogged down in these soap operas here that us Americans really place upon each other. I will be looking at the live chats because I want to know if the treason chatter is just chatter for now to get us distracted from the Epstein files, or is it legitimate? It's something that's been cooked up that is connected to an Epstein file release, or if it's none of the above. If it's none of the above, or maybe you might be like me and thinking that the Epstein file release is going to be connected to the financial reset, because this takes everything down. This takes the Senate, people in the Senate from both parties down. This takes the Congress down. This takes the Supreme Court down. This takes EU players down. And it could potentially take Trump down himself and people around him. I certainly was one of the guys that told you that Don Jr. is involved. Jared Kushner is involved, just to name a few. So we're going to be looking into that here tonight. But let's get to some Real Deal Internationals, as now Mexico is in the crosshairs of the Trump administration. Oh, yes, it is. Well, let's talk about some Mexico affairs. Comprende? You got that? Well, now the United States is retaliating against Mexico with new flight restrictions amid aviation disputes. Oh, it's only going to get worse. And wait till we find out that the cartels are controlled by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, i.e., Project Pegasus. But you didn't hear it from me. No, I'm not falling on that sword. Well, the United States Department of Transportation, DOT, or as we call it, DOT, imposed new restrictions over there on a Mexican airline, citing Mexico's failure to comply with the 2015 U.S.-Mexico Air Transport Agreement. I mean, how could they not? It wasn't that hard to remember. You know what it is, right? Let's hope. Well, now since 2022, Mexico has cut hourly flight movements at Mexico City's Benito Juarez Airport and forced U.S. cargo carriers to relocate to a less favorable airport. Moves that DOT, the Department of Transportation, said were unjustified and harmful to U.S. carriers. And I'm going to go on record, just flying to Mexico is pretty harmful for just about anybody. I almost got detained 3 times. They wanted a miracle jab agreement between me and the doctor of proof. I almost had to sit in the back with the chickens and the donkeys. I mean, you want to talk about dangerous flights. That was one I endured roughly 3 years ago. Well, effective, I should say, as of July 19th, Mexican carriers must submit detailed operational data, seek approval for charter flights, and face potential legal consequences regarding their compliance with the United States law. Well, DOT has tentatively moved to withdraw antitrust immunity from Delta Air Mexico joint venture, citing market distortions caused by Mexico's handling of airport slot allocations, meaning they're making U.S. flights sit in the back in the cheap seats by the bleachers, as they now DOT emphasize the significant role of this venture, but they are quite pissed. And Trump, I think, will be declaring war on Mexico at some point in our lifetime, at least in the next 3 years. I see that happening. Don't you? Can you feel that? Something else that is quite pressing now is UK government secret cover-up highlights Democratic crisis as truth becomes unpublishable. And you have to pay attention to what's happening in England because it's coming here next. But let me tell you about this now. The United Kingdom government has now super injunctioned to suppress reporting on a catastrophic MOD data breach endangering 100,000 Afghans. Over £7 billion was secretly spent relocating 6,900 Afghanis while Parliament remained in the dark for 22 months. Courts enabled censorship, labeling, even mentioning the injunction illegal, undermining democratic scrutiny. Justice Chamberlain condemned the secret operation as placing democracy into cold storage. Now the scandal reveals Britain's lack of constitutional free speech protections enables executive overreach. Well, what I'm talking about is Afghan allies who had aided British forces risking their lives. Instead of transparency, they're now being placed throughout the country. I guess you could say that now. Throughout England, you have a faux pas Islamic takeover. We should call it the corporate Islamic takeover of England. Yes. Or even the goat herder types, well, they're driving Mercedes-Benz in this case because they're being sponsored by Star Kiermer, the drag queen of Downing Street, that is. Just to be exact, the erosion of the parliamentary oversight and public trust is at an all-time high. And don't we know it? And good luck on finding a pub and a real British monarch of beer out there, as it's now being replaced by the hummus and the camel. That's all we know at this point. Sadly, well, as I'm telling you that, well, now Puerto Rico's back in the international arena. Yes, the province of America for now. Well, Puerto Rico now bans gender-affirming care for people under 21. Well, that's kind of positive, too. I mean, one of the most corrupt regions in the world. Well, Puerto Rico Governor Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, well, signed a Senate Bill 350 just days ago banning gender-affirming hormone therapy and surgeries for individuals who are under the age of 21, the legal age of majority in the territory. Now, the law imposes a $50,000 fine per violation, permanent revocation of medical license, and a mandatory, get this now, 15-year prison sentence for healthcare professionals who provide cutting off your kibbles and bits. That's pretty disgusting. And I think I'm getting nauseous. Well, the legislation also prohibits the use of public funds to support any cutting off of anything for minors and young adults. Now, organizations, yes, the usuals, the American Liberties, the ACLU, the Puerto Rico Psychological Association, the psychiatrists out there, the ones who prescribe our veterans all the killing psychiatric drugs. That's why there's high suicide rate, because of those punks in this society. And yes, the Puerto Rican Bar Association warned of serious mental health and legal implications, urging a veto that never came. So forget the ACLU for a minute, but the Puerto Rico Psychological Association, probably that's made up of trannies and tranny lovers alike, as well as the Puerto Rico Bar Association, they should be just mandatory gender realignments, whether they like it or not. Now, while the LGBTQ plus advocates vowed to challenge the law in court, conservative leaders, including Senate State President over there, Thomas Schatz, who almost shat himself when he heard about this, praised it as a victory for protecting the youth. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? I don't even know. The LGBTQ, which is nothing but a communist storefront, they just never seem to get their way as much as they used to. Continuing, but not done yet. Well, that takes us now to Chile over there in South America. Chile, which is also the home of the escape home, the summer home of the Butches. That's another story. We'll get this now. There's a reason why China is in South America, particularly Chile. Let us not forget China's entire space program is in where? Argentina. Well, Chile's lithium mines fuel an ecological disaster, draining vital water supplies throughout the entire country. Here's what I'm talking about, and Elon Musk, I'm sure he knows all about it. Well, lithium mining over there in Chile's Atacama desert consumes staggering amounts of water. Even more water than it takes to make almonds and cashews, and that's a lot of water. Well, 65% of the region's water supply, while local farmers struggle to survive, and this is being fueled by many of us out here. Well, the industry's explosive growth, global demand, comes at a expensive flamingo time. They're saying the expensive flamingos actually have no time to live much longer. Wetlands and ancient carob trees, which I'm sure you're very concerned about. Well, the indigenous communities sidelined in decision-making warned that the corporations treat their homeland as a natural laboratory for untested extraction technologies, despite promises of economic benefits. Local reject hollow payouts, preferring the ancestral right to water and land over temporary financial relief. Very sad, but this is what China does. This is what they're doing in Africa, particularly Congo, which we're going to have a very deep conversation about Congo very soon. We're going to have James Martinez join us very soon for that once again. Continuing, and finally almost, well, that now brings us to Munich. Munich over there in Germany, the place that is a rape and pillage hot zone for anyone who's interested. Well, now Munich citizens form human chains around synagogues to protect from pro-Palestine rallies. The pro-Palestine rally was given permission to travel the rite of passage to the main synagogue over there in the city, posing a threat to the Jewish community. And you better believe they have saboteurs that are masquerading as protesters. But enough about that. Several hundred people formed a human chain around Munich synagogue recently to protect the Jewish community from a mass pro-Palestinian protest, moving a show of solidarity. There's that word again. Well, the Friday pro-Palestinian rally organized by the group of Palestine Speaks, which I've reached out. No one wants to speak to me. What did I do? Was given permission to travel right past the city's main synagogue, posing a threat to the Jewish community. They're saying protesters shouted, "Death to the IDF." Okay, I don't see any. Is that a major problem out of all the things that are happening? Like famine, starvation, bombing the Catholic Church, etc., etc. Well, Hamas terror was glorified, they're saying, as this is coming out of the Jerusalem Post, as the Palestinian resistance and German and Israeli French hostages held by the Islamic terrorist group were denounced as war criminals. So more drama that's ensuing around the world that's outside of Israel. Isn't that something? Well, here's something that passed across our desk here at the RDM newsroom. Well, something in Australia just came about. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, who is a financier and philanthropist, on a very shallow level, not just here in the U.S., but even in places like the land down under. In fact, here's a little clip I found here. This was former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating's young daughter leaving Jeffrey Epstein's luxury apartment. Isn't that something? In fact, here is some footage of that. I had no idea that Paul Keating's daughter is, it's just the home of pedos over there in Australia. Who could ever thought or conceive something like this would happen? Oh, there she is. There she is. She said, Jeffrey Epstein, here's your key. That is disturbing. So this is in Sydney, not that long ago. The daughter of the former prime minister. Can you imagine that? In Australia. I didn't know Australia was so corrupt. Did you? That's just something else. That's something else. Anyways, that's now going to bring us to some real deal showbiz because we have some things to attend to. Real deal showbiz. Let's talk about it here. Well, we have some unfortunate news once again. We have now an announcement of the death of Black Sabbath's Ozzy Osbourne, who's now dead, deceased at the age of 76, his family has announced. Interesting. It was just days ago, over the July 4th weekend, he played his last concert. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but let me tell you what the deeds are here as we get to the bottom of it. Well, rock legend is indeed dead. Black Sabbath singer died at the age of 76 at home with his wife, Sharon Osbourne, and his kids by his side weeks after his last show. Ozzy Osbourne died surrounded by the family at the home. Now, his death comes just after the final concert of Black Sabbath, where he performed the entire concert while sitting down as he took to the stage one final time with his bandmates over there at the Villa Park in Birmingham, England, which was quite the sight. Ozzy died in a stunning mansion over there in Buckinghamshire, surrounded by his loved ones, in a very sad state of affairs. How this happened, he seemed peachy keen. I didn't think this was going to happen right away, but upon further investigation of why this happened, well, look at this. Well, the singer Ozzy Osbourne has died suddenly after years of illness, which mysteriously started after getting miracle jabbed. That's right, the Black Sabbath singer canceled concerts after experiencing blood clots in his legs and had a filter placed in his artery to protect the spread to his heart. Ozzy Osbourne at the time said he's feeling, quote, relieved after getting his first miracle jab COVID-19 84 shot. And I guess that didn't age well, did it? Well, here's something else that didn't age well, and kind of the era of the Epstein client list. Certainly a lot of people have been privy to it, who's exactly on the flight logs. Well, I kind of noticed something years ago when I started seeing celebrities go out of their way to tell the world just how ill they are, and not only ill, but how ill-fated their memory was in his becoming. And one of those people is, well, Bruce Willis. Well, this is now coming out as a shocker, I guess. Bruce Willis has now said his health battle worsens as he can no longer speak, read, or even walk at this point. He's putting Helen Keller at a real risk of holding that title, as now things seem to be getting worse for Bruce Willis and his health battle. Yes, that's right. The Hollywood icon Bruce Willis is reportedly no longer able to speak, read, or walk as a frontotemporal dementia continues to progress. Timely. Well, the devastating news update comes 3 years after the Die Hard star first stepped away from acting following a diagnosis of asphasia over there back in 2022. Bruce Willis, who's 70 years old, who would have saw that one, is said to have become largely nonverbal and is reportedly experiencing motor difficulties. Through no specific details about his mobility have been confirmed by his family in recent months. It comes after his daughter, Tallulah, defended the decision to post controversial photos of her father. Now, just recently, Willis's family has issued a rare public update reassuring fans that while the disease remains progressive, his condition is considered stable, at least until the Epstein files come out. Then it's going to be critical. And that's all we know at that front. Just a wild cannonball run, isn't it? A wild cannonball run. Finally, here, that brings us to Real Deal Sports, a category we don't ever get to often. Well, this is some uplifting news, kind of in a round robin type of way. Well, the United States Olympic officials have made official statement as they've now officially barred transgender women from women's competitions. That's absolutely correct. Ladies out there, feel free to audition. You might have a chance. I'll see you at the next Olympics. Well, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee quietly changed its eligibility rules just yesterday to bar transgender women, or as we see them or know them as womans, from competing in Olympic women's sports, and now will comply with President Trump's executive order on the issue, according to a post on the organization's website that's familiar with the matter. Well, the new policy, expressed in a short, vaguely worded paragraph, is now tucked under the category. That's right. The paragraph is tucked neatly, confinedly under the category of USOPC athlete safety policy on the site. Does not include details on how the ban will work, nor does the new policy include the word transgender, tranny, man in drag, bearded woman, or anything of that outfit, or the title of Mr. Trump's executive order keeping men out of women's sports, referring to it as instead as Executive Order 14201. Well, how vanilla is that? That takes out all the fun, doesn't it? I'll tell you, let's get to some real deal health real quick.
Paging Dr. Ryan.
Deal health, what a way to end on things. Well, as I'm on my journey to cure myself from whatever new memory disease I have, but our gut disease and all these bad foods, and plus I'm inspired by Bobby Kennedy and his insinuation that we need to fix ourselves and what we eat. Well, it gave me that spark that I needed, and I wanted to share this with you as this is coming out of Natural News. Well, now, as we've discovered the virgin diet and other diets in the past few weeks together, well, this one is quite interesting, is the Mediterranean diet is now slashing the risk of vision loss up to 34%, a new study finds. Well, this is great. This is great. I certainly love everything Mediterranean, don't you? Well, now the research shows that the Mediterranean diet, rich in fruits, veggies, fish, and olive oil too, can now reduce age-related macular denigration progression by 23 to 34% to be exact, offering a natural way to preserve vision. Was the leading cause of vision loss in older adults. The damages the retina's macula, and these are just terms I know from my med school days. Impairing daily tasks, poor diets, high in processed foods worsen the condition. That's right. No more American cheese for you. No more Snicker bars, and no more apple fritters. What you need now, they're saying, is omega-3s, vitamin C and E, and antioxidants in the Mediterranean diet to combat the stress shielding the retinas from you seeing. Are you experiencing incredible amounts of vision impairment out there? Are you feeling like you're going blind as a bat? Well, if you are, well, the study highlights the diet's broader health benefits, heart, cognitive functions. It's cost effective. Yes, it is. Experts recommend replacing foods with nuts, fatty fish, olive oil, colorful vegetables to reduce the risk of losing your sight and improve your overall health. And that is some real deal health.
Paging Dr. Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What are you saying out there? How do you feel about your diets, but also how do you feel about the Epstein versus the treason? Is there a reason or is there a distraction that is lurking and looming just underneath our nose? What say you out there? We want to hear what you have to say. Well, we have Seth Black, who's never shy of an opinion, especially when it comes to Hollywood. He says the following: Bruce Willis should play Joe Biden in a movie called Scranton. Thank you, Seth. That was a very wonderful observation. We have Chad saying real cheese. Yes. You know, I knew things were, I knew the fix was in when a lot of brands had to start promoting that they use real cheese. That's when I knew something's wrong with this food and it was turning into Play-Doh. Didn't you? That's how I felt about it too. Here's some other things here. We have Lynn Marshall that's saying they are saying assisted suicide. Yeah, they are. Or in regards to Ozzy Osbourne, is that what it is? Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of these celebrities that were promoting the miracle jab, they're not really here to promote it anymore, are they? Here we have on Rumble. Let's see what people are saying here. We have Mandy Lynn saying during the LA riots, mostly peaceful protesters, when they blocked the 101, the news kept showing Ozzy graffiti. I did not know that. Thank you. We have over there on Rumble, we have Eshwink saying, I do feel like I'm losing my sight, but I'm hypoglycemic fighting diabetes. So I'm sure RFK diet would be better. Yeah, you got to try the Mediterranean diet. It's worked for so many people. And, I don't like to brag, but since the opportunity has arose, I took a eyesight test not that long ago, and they said I have 40/20 vision. I have super vision that it's just incredible. I mean, it's almost X-ray vision at this point. Not to brag. Okay, here's another one. We have Kenny59B said, my friend won the Mexican Powerball, 45 chickens and a goat. Well, that's 45 chickens that I don't have. Congratulations to your friend. Okay, here we have Rebel Mama who says, 107 said last night the international players will be released within 10 days. I should get 107 on here. It's been a few years. I think I should. Okay, thank you very much. We have Angelina Wolf saying over there on Rumble, I think Mike Adams is correct. Tulsi will run for president. Really? Okay, I have to ask Mike about that. Thank you very much on that. We have Rebel Mama one more time saying that, remember Trump signed an executive order to allow him to seize the assets of international diddlers. That's right. There's so many EOs, I can't even keep up anymore. That is absolutely correct. How about in Australia out there? Are you noticing your politicians in the era of Dan Andrews seem to have gone away, or do you see more of that? And just how rampant is the pedophile network over there in Australia? I guess I'm not allowed to say that on the networks over here. That gets me even more shadow banned, but it's scary. Well, what do you think about that? We have Christina says, be careful with olive oils. Why is that? What is the downside of olive oils, if you don't mind me asking? Okay. And she further says that I eat very healthy. No one believes my age. I only eat veggies, fruit, and small amounts of protein, only water and limon. Thank you, Christina. That's very nice of you. What is Belinda saying over there from Australia? What's everyone's opinion on the carnivore diet? Well, you know what? Our very own Sean Gregorian lost 115 pounds on it. That's right. He is a huge meat eater. And he bites big. That's what I heard. So congratulations to him. We have Nigel Dyer says, did you know the couple that was exposed by Coldplay? Well, believe it or not, The Simpsons predicted it. Yes, before I did. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? In fact, I heard that not only that happened, but that they fired the person who got them the tickets, that couple, and blamed him for the downfall. Isn't that sleazy? They should have just owned it. Now, what do you know? We have Claudine, who's in the land down under, said plenty of pedo. I'm in Australia. Yes. I have to return to Australia very soon. I hope to lead the Real Deal tours once we get our vacation holiday department up and running. I hope to do the Outback very soon. We have Belinda, who's down under. We have female versions of Daniel Andrews now. Whatever happened to Dan Andrews? Was it true that he was offed? That's what I'd like to know. I used to cover him all the time. Who remembers that? And I guess, is Leatherface still a thing? Is he still doing his thing? I should ask that too while we're at it. And finally, we have over there on Rumble, we have Kenny 59B says they should put the nicotine patch on. It does wonders, says Dr. Byron Artist. Kenny, that's actually true. I've actually heard it in real time. It does work. So we're going to have a lot of people with smoking habits coming up, or just the nicotine patch. That's how that one is. Well, that's going to bring us now to a very important part of the night here, and that's, well, you guessed it. final thoughts here. Ian Andrews, Frikey. Be executed. I'm Dan Andrews. Thank you very much. Final thoughts here tonight for the digital Trojan horse. Well, you know, as the markets go up and down and the Epstein versus the treason goes lopsided from one pendulum to another, one thing that remains true is truth and gold and silver. The oldest things in the book here. And what remains true is that crime doesn't pay. It gets away with things for a while, but people this time around won't forget. We won't forget the crimes of the past administrations. Yet we recognize the crimes, potential crimes, of even current administrations, no matter which country you reside in. So we'll keep our eye on the prize, but we'll keep our thumbs to the tax of how many crimes are being committed in our name, how many genocides, ethnic cleansings are being committed with our tax dollars, and enough is enough. And I'm glad the world is waking up to the rogue nations, the rogue militaries in this world. We got to get past the peer pressure and call a foul, a crime, and a genocide. And also say no to the Federal Reserve, the biggest antichrist in our lifetime. And that's how I see it. Okay, on that note, I will be here tomorrow night. We'll be doing something very interesting, as we should have a guest on this week. We're working on that, as my schedule is all over the place, as I'm beginning to make the big travel back to the west side of North America. Yes, it's a long journey home. So for all of us here at Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War, I'm Dean Ryan, saying thank you for sharing a bit of your night with me. Until next time, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. And the answer that you're looking for is always in your eyes.
I get so lost sometimes. This house and this gentleness in my heart. When I want to run away, I drive off my car. When way I go, I drive to the place you love. My instincts, they're a time. They're the sun, soon they run. Without a noise, without my pride, we fade out from the inside. And in your eyes, without a noise, without my pride, drown out to the inside.